the dice. This is it. High fly ball into right field. She is gone.
Campanella talking baseball.
The grand salami.
Willie, Mickey, and the Duke.
Welcome to Fed Up, the number one place where you can get up on all things Federal League. I am your host, Josh Stoll. It's episode 3. It's our preview episode. This will be the most thorough preview that you see on the Federal League this season. We're going to cover all 35 teams. We're going to give you win-loss record for each. We're going to predict each of the 7 division winners. We're going to tell you who's going to make the AAA, the AA, the A, and the B, and we're going to give you champs. So let's get right into it. For those of you joining us on YouTube, not only do you get a little bonus view of our remote studios in the Windy City in Chicago, but you also get a little preview of a PowerPoint I put together with some graphics that will supplement just what I'm going over. So if you're not already, please join us on YouTube. A great way to enjoy the podcast. So before we get into the preview, we got to establish some ground rules. Ground rule number 1, keep in mind this is for fun, right? This is entertainment purposes only. If you want to take something I said and use it as intrinsic motivation, absolutely go right ahead. Please do. Bulletin board material, all that. If you want to take something I said as a compliment, and I talked nice about you or your team, please do, because I genuinely mean it. But the last thing we want is somebody throwing at somebody over something said on here. I'm going to do this in a way that is just it's positive. It's not meant to be demeaning to anyone. So let's just keep in mind that it's for entertainment purposes, and we can't predict 18-0 records for everybody. Ground rule number 2: obviously no way to know everything. Lars puts out a ton of great content, and it allows us to all stay in the know in terms of what's going on in the league. We saw all of the hot stove takes that he did on X, throughout the offseason. He put together that awesome anonymous survey where we got to get the league's perspective on who's going to win the divisions, who's going to compete for the MVP. We also have the statistics that each of the managers put on. And there's an old baseball saying that I absolutely love. Statistics are like bikinis. They show a lot, but they don't show everything. Some of you are looking like Giselle in your bikinis. Some of you are not. Definitely going to use those statistics to make an informed opinion. Not going to base everything completely on it. Some of this obviously based on gut feel, what I hear when I talk to managers. What I see, for myself when I'm able to take in other games. Obviously, no way to know who's going to get guys to show up on a consistent basis, who's going to endure injuries. We're predicting. It's the nature of the beast. Ground rule number 3. I will get something wrong. I will probably mispronounce a name. I will get an off-season transaction wrong. I will miss somebody or something. So if you want to kindly correct me in the comments or some kind of thread that you're following, absolutely please feel free to do that or shoot me a DM. But I will get something wrong, and please just bear with me. All right, so let's move on to our first division. We got the American North. According to Lars's anonymous survey poll, the Minoka Grays running away with this according to the league, 57 votes. St. Michael Angels got 7 votes as well. But the Minneapolis Bombers coming in with 2 votes. That's probably Pelkowski's parents that are weighing in on that and voting. But let's look at 5th place. I've got the Bombers there. Certainly, over the last 3 years, they've seen a stark decline. A 10-8 record back in 2021 when they first joined the Federal League. Last year, they won 6 games, but it was over a 20-game season. And then last year, of course, turning in just a 2-16 record. This team is 29th in the league in hitting. They're 23rd in the league in pitching. They do have a key add this year, Will Sterlogson. I don't know anything about him, admittedly. But I do think that Mike Pelkowski gets the lion's share of the work again this year. He gets that knuckleball going. And the Bombers do see a little bit of a resurgence, and they win 3 games this year, placing them solidly in the B bracket. The Red West Legends have certainly had a busy offseason. They've also seen a little bit of a decline over the years after winning 12 games back in 2021. This is a team that can hit the ball. They're ranked fourth overall, hitting 395 in 2023, but pitching has just absolutely struggled for them. The hitting might suffer a little bit with some of the key losses. Obviously losing Jeremy Selden and Matthew Van Overbeck because of the expansion. But they still have a couple of key performers in Scott Butner, Mark Berger, and John Pukachnik, Damian Dumonsu, who are still going to be around for that team. They gotta pitch. Hopefully they're able to find some additional pitching. But I do have this team suffering just a little bit more of a drop off yet. At 6-12, they'll be solidly in the B as well. Capital City Cannons, another team that just had a ton of change over the offseason. Kleppen, obviously, going over to the Minnetonka Saints. Mike Lewis, no longer on the roster for Capital City. John Ripplinger, I didn't see him on the roster for this season. But they are adding some pieces. Tim Duffy comes over in that essential trade from the Minnetonka Saints. We've got Dan Caffrey, Eric Johnson from the TC Dodgers, with Chris Kalina's Federal League influence there, bringing in Kevin Chaves from the West Metro Mavericks, Chad Manders, Armando Santiago, a ton of names on that list. I believe Armando's coming over from the Diablos. So a lot of new pieces. Capital City Cannons definitely taking advantage of that expanded roster rule change. They still have Smiley. They still have Zap. This team has been up and down over the years. 9 wins in 2021, 11 wins in 22, back to 9 in 2023. I've got a little bit more of a drop off for this team. I've got them at 7-11 in the A bracket. They'll be a force in the A, but I've got them just dropping a little bit. Some of those key losses I think really impact the Cannons. The St. Michael Angels. This is a team I love. The more I look at them, the more I just think they're building a real winner in St. Michael. Third ranked pitching team all of last season with a 2.07 ERA. 22nd in hitting. There's definitely some room for improvement there, but with a guy like Pluff on the mound, obviously they're going to be a force to be reckoned with in just about any game that he goes. Derek Snell, a key contributor on the mound as well. I've got this team. It looks like the roster is the exact same from last year. No losses, no ads. I've got this team at 12-6, and I've got them solidly in the AA. They'll be a high seed there. The Minoka Grays, the defending champs, ranked first in hitting last year, hit over 400, the first in pitching with a 1.16. This team absolutely loaded. Everybody knows this. We talk about them a lot. Looks like they're adding a couple of key pieces with Doug Grosvenor, with Matt Merrick. But they do have, I feel like, a lot more question marks coming into the season than they normally have. Nick Larson suffering an offseason injury. Mike Wayrock, obviously, wishing him well as he recovers from a medical ailment. Bubba Lovis had some issues as well in terms of the injury department in the offseason. Now, and I know Alex Gonzalez also, they kind of kept his innings down, making sure that he was fresh and healthy for the postseason. Most of these guys, if not all, are anticipated to really start the team with the season on opening day. So it might not be really a concern, but something certainly to keep an eye on. But also, there's something that Tori hit on in episode 2 where they talked about after you win it, do you still have that same drive? Do you still get the same commitment from guys? I feel like that's going to be something to watch with Minoka as well. Can they get everyone out the way that they have consistently in the past? I've got this team coming back to the pack a little bit this year. And of course, that doesn't mean much when they're still 15-3 and solidly among one of the top seeds in the league. Moving on to the American League East, according to that anonymous poll, the Mammoth again running away with this one, 58 votes. River Falls grabbed a couple of votes, and South Metro Saints. They've got a great following on X, so I'm not surprised to see them grab a couple of votes as well. In 5th place in this division, I've got the RC Rockets, recently rebranded from Richfield. This team struggled to hit the ball last year, ranked 28th out of 32 in hitting just 268 as a team. That is nearly 55 points below the league average. Pitching there 21st, they had the standout rookie in Colin Warren, but he had that gruesome injury out at the Hickory. Can he get back? Will he be back in time for the start of the season? Can he stay healthy all season? If he does, they have the ability to beat anybody when he goes. I haven't seen him pitch in person myself, but I've heard tons of great things, and I became an instant fan when he said he could throw left-handed at the Hickory after hurting his arm. So I was definitely enjoyed that story, but wishing Colin a healthy recovery, and hopefully he's back in the saddle right away for the Rockets. They're going to need him. Other key performers on this team, Matt Hassler hitting almost 400 last year, Ricky Shotton, Patrick O'Loughlin. This team does have some nice pieces. I feel like they're starting to build something and put it together. But with that said, if Colin can't stay healthy, I think they're going to have a little bit of a drop. I've got them at 4-14, solidly in the B. The St. Croix Valley Silverbacks. This team's been up and down a little bit. 11 wins back in 2021, dropped all the way down to 7 in 22, and finished at that 500 even keel to in 2023. They struggled to hit the ball a little bit, ranking 24th in average, just 288 as a team. But they've got some nice players on this team. Doug Burfeld, one of the all-time historic best hitters in the league history, 17 of 45 last year, hitting at 425 clip. But look at that schedule. East Metro twice, South Metro twice, River Falls twice. They also see Apple Valley, Minoka, Rosemount, St. Michael. That is a murderer's row of a schedule, and I think they're going to have some difficulty winning some of those games. So I've got this team at 7-11 back in the A. The South Metro Saints, fun team. Love everything they put out on X. Chris Miner is just an absolute genius when it comes to some of the content they crank out. Super excited to draw them. Our team, the Apple Valley A's, on opening day. That'll be this Sunday. We've actually got 4 teams that are opening up in 2 different games. In baseball, that counts starting Sunday. So our next episode 4, we're going to be talking about real results that counted in the standings. We're also going to cover, maybe hit on a couple of the friendlies that are occurring this weekend. But the South Metro Saints, they were 20th in hitting last year, 18th in pitching. Obviously, MVP candidate in Grant Shaw threw over 31 innings last year with a perfect 5-0 record of 1.77 ERA. Josh Conley's a really nice piece that really contributes well there. El Jefe, Terry Knopp, a lot of veterans that know how to win. I mentioned Chris Miner, great hitter, great on base guy. They got the same thing in this division. I feel like they might have drawn the short straw with both having a tough interdivision schedule and then drawing one of the better out of division schedules as well. As I mentioned, they open against Apple Valley. They've got Minoka on the schedule. They play St. Michael, and then those division teams. River Falls twice, East Metro twice, the Rockets twice. If Colin Warren is healthy, they're going to be a tough out. And then also Rosemont on that schedule as well. I've got the South Metro Saints at 11-7, matching last year's win total at 11, solidly in the double A. The River Falls Groupers. If this team doesn't scare you, you're not paying attention. And it might be because they don't do the best job at posting stats. They didn't enter any pitching stats. Their hitting stats, sparse on their hitting stats as well. Had them ranked 15th at 317 last year. They have an amazing 1-2 combo on the mound in Dave Meyer. Everyone knows that name, Dave Meyer, but Derek Marks is just an under the radar guy who I feel like we should be talking about a little bit more. He is certainly somebody that I think really brings it. He will win a lot of big games. I think that if Dave Meyer stays healthy this season, they're really going to give some teams fits. Now, they're victims as well. The tough schedule thing, don't need to beat that horse to death. But certainly, I think there's going to be a couple of games that they drop. But this team is going to stay right on even keel and turn in their 3rd straight 12-6 record and be in the double A this year. The East Metro Mammoth, it's, key performers there in the middle. It's copy paste their entire roster. Kazaza, Ralston, Stark, Hall, Corcoran, Johnson, Hegarness, Lutzka, Grill, Stark. It's absolutely just a stacked line. 2nd overall in hitting last year, where they hit 403, second only to Minoka. In pitching, they were 5th with a 2.45 ERA. Obviously, that same tough schedule we mentioned. Going to be a lot of good baseball played in this division. Certainly looking forward to seeing how they end up. But I've got the Mammoth also matching last year's record at 16-2. and solidly in the AAA. The American League West. According to Lars's survey, this was fairly well split. The Waconia Islanders, new kids on the block, getting 25 of the votes. The Chaska Voyagers getting 18 of those votes. The Rockford Rail Splitters grabbing 15. No love for the Chaska Diamonds or the Eden Prairie Flyers, but certainly going to be a competitive division among the entire group. It's been tough sledding for the Chaska Diamonds. Last year's rankings, they were 31st in hitting. They were 29th in pitching, obviously near the bottom in both categories. A lot of great veterans on this team that have been around for a long time. Guys like Scott Van Epps, Brett Janke, a lot of key performers as well, in terms of Brian Smith, Scott Christensen, Joe Campbell. They were able to grab Manny Lopez, who was an all-star last year. From the Minneapolis Diablos. I think he's going to help them a little bit, give them a little more flexibility on the mound, give them another catcher, another decent stick in the lineup. But I think it's going to be a lot of uphill chugging as well for the Diamonds once again. I've got them at 3-15 heading into the B. Eden Prairie Flyers, this is a very blank slide, not a lot on the Eden Prairie Flyers. In part because the MSMABA does not enter their stats. In part, they don't have some great media contributions in terms of some of the things that Lars does. They did finish as the 7th seed last year in the MSMABA. They finished 4th in the postseason. They've got a tough schedule, a couple of games that you want to keep an eye on for them. They've got Newmarket, they've got Lakeville, they're going to play Elko. They'll see Rockford twice, Waconia twice. They've got Tonka Bay on that schedule, as well as Lonsdale, Metro, Minnetonka Saints. I think this team's going to have a little bit of a rude awakening coming into the Fed. I think they're going to struggle a little bit. I've got them at 6-12 heading into the B. Chaska Voyagers, new to the league in 2022. They posted a 9-11 record there. In 2023, they're 8-10, not quite able to get even on that 500 record. They were ranked 13th in hitting last year. They hit 320. In pitching, they were 23rd with a 4.85 team ERA. But they definitely sustained some key losses, losing guys like Jim Brower and Troy Koenig, J.J. Jensen. Obviously have all left for Tonka Bay. It's that loss is going to certainly leave an impact. They do still have Dewey. They have Klavitz. They've got Keith Bistadu, who is up for Rookie of the Year. Tyler Nawrocki, Nate Jackson. A lot of great pieces. A lot of great hitters. Do they have the pitching? Are they able to overcome a loss like Brower? Probably not. I think I've got them sliding back a little bit. I've got them at 7-11, back in the A, where they're going to be a force to repeat. Rockford Rail Splitters, this team is consistent as consistent comes. 14 wins in 2021, 11 wins again, double-digit wins again in 2023. Certainly some roster movement for them. Jesse Berg, John Skilbeck, Eddie Carey are new additions. Ryan Trollinger did retire. He threw 23 innings for them last year, so that's definitely going to be a key piece that they need to replace. This team was 6th in hitting last year. They hit 366 as a team, 11th in pitching with an ERA of just over 3. Todd Haig, clearly, one of the better on-base guys, base stealers in the league. Jeremy Loretz and Troy Loomis, some other great pieces. I've got this team finishing around that same mark, giving back one game. They're at 11-7, solid in the AA. The Waconia Islanders, another fairly blank slide. You'll see some familiar faces. Jeremy Sullivan, Matt Van Overbeck, a couple of guys that came over from Red West, decided to play with the Waconia Islanders on their roster. They were the number 1 seed in the MSMABA playoffs. They dropped a first-round game to the Becker Buzzards. I'm going to bet $1 that Jason Pinkston probably threw that game. Certainly a tough out. They did finish in 6th place in the postseason, so not quite what the ending to the year that they were hoping for. Certainly a couple of games on their schedule to keep an eye on. They're going to get Elko. They're going to get the Minnetonka Saints. They're going to see Lakeville. Then they'll also get teams like the Loons, Lonsdale. They're going to see Rockford a couple of times, Newmarket, and Tonka Bay. But I've got this team winning this division, 13-5, and in the AAA. I think that this team's going to adjust well to the Federal League, and I think they're going to surprise a lot of people just how well they do. Last division in the American League, we're going to go to the American League South. Burnsville Bulldogs in the anonymous survey ran away with this one, 54 votes. The Milltown Outlaws did draw 8 after the offseason that they had. And then our brand new kids in this block, the Hastings Hurricanes, grabbed a couple as well. The Webster Wildcats, they were 5-9 in 2021, 8-10 in 2022, and posted 7 wins last year. Ranked 17th in hitting, ranked 8th in pitching. But I'm learning that they didn't quite enter all of their pitching stats, and so maybe that's a little bit inflated. And this team competes. They've put some scare into some good teams in that Southern Division. They've played Elko tough. They played Lonsdale tough. I know they've taken Lakeville down to the wire a couple of times. But this year I've got them at 6-12, solidly in the B. The Northfield Millers, new to the league in 2022, they had a little bit of an adjustment period. They're 5-13 there. Last year, they were 4 games better, getting to that even 500 mark. They were 9-9, but they're 26th in hitting just 284 as a team. Pitching was pretty good, though. It was 12th. MVP candidates already being talked about in Maximiliano Garcia, which might be the best name in the league, as well as Tony Rome. I've got this team at 7-11 and in the A. Hastings Hurricanes obviously haven't played a game yet. Love the logo, love the jerseys. So nice job, Nick Duckner, on all those. Excited to see this team play. Excited to see their field and just learn a little bit more about them. Apple Valley does play them this year, so I'm going to get a chance to do that. They've also got a couple of games against Burnsville. They'll play Rosemount. They'll play Lakeville, Lonsdale, East Metro, Elko. That is a tough schedule. I've got this team coming in at 9-9, right there in the A bracket. The Milltown Outlaws, 8-10 each of the last 2 seasons, near the bottom in hitting. They hit just 254. But a key roster addition this year, Mike Rothstein. Pair that with Nick Davis and Bill Dunker. I think this team is due for a great performance. I've got them improving by a couple of games. I think they're going to be 10-8, and I've got them in the Double A. The Burnsville Bulldogs, 15-3 in their first season as Federal League team. They were top 6 in both hitting and pitching. Obviously some guys like Trent Larson and Josh Lowen, who threw a ton for them. 55 innings for Larson, 49 for Lowen on the mound. Larson was a perfect 7-0, 1.27 ERA, and he had 22 hits and hit 386. Lowen, by the way, he had 18 hits and hit 327. Brandon Smeja, just an absolute stud. Freeman was an all-star. Mike McCallion. This team's certainly loaded, but the key question I have for this team is, can their pitching stay healthy? I think Trent Larson had some back issues in the postseason. I know Lowen had some arm issues. Can they stay healthy with all of their eggs in those baskets? If they don't, they're going to struggle. I just don't know a lot of guys on that team that can bring it like those two do. I'm downgrading them slightly from 15-3 to 13-5, but I do still have them winning this division and being in the AAA. From there, it's over to the National League East, where the preseason survey has the Rosemount Pipers edging out the Apple Valley A's, 34 votes to 26. The Norsemen also grabbed a handful there. No love for the St. Paul teams, but certainly expect them to be a disruptor when it comes to that division. The Senators, led by veteran Ed Wigfield, threw over 30 innings for them with a 3.97 ERA. Brian Lawrence, also a number of innings on the mound, just over 23. This team finished 20th in pitching with an ERA of just over 4, but dead last in the league in hitting. Just hitting just 228 as a team. They do have some nice guys at the plate: Nick Campion, Jason Grusendorf, Derek Dittmer. But haven't seen enough from this team to expect that this year is going to be any remarkably different than the 5-13 seasons they put up in 21 and 22, or the 3-15 campaign from last year. I've got them right in the middle of those two numbers at 4-14, placing them solidly in the B. St. Paul JTs, that's Jim Block's final season. It's been a little bit of a tail off for the JTs. 11 wins in 21, 10 wins in 22, just 4 wins last year. He struggles both at the plate and on the mound. 24th, 25th in both hitting and pitching. Do have some nice pieces, obviously. Wade Johnson threw over 43 innings while hitting 333 at the plate. Dave Bellata is certainly somebody that they rely on to carry them on the mound as well. John Aaron's, Jeremy Brooks. Uh, can Jim Block's final season muster up a little bit more magic? If they do, I think they'll do it in the B bracket again. I've got them at 5-13, solidly in the B, and certainly expect them to compete for that championship. The Norsemen, my biggest question for the Norsemen, will they return to postseason play? Certainly love to see them participate. I'm guessing last year they probably had some injuries to pitching, led by veteran Steve Jenke, who threw over 51 innings for them last year. If they don't have him, it's going to be tough for them to not only stay competitive, but of course play in a tightly scheduled postseason tournament. They did finish 10th in hitting. They were 20th in pitching. This team won 8 games last year. I've got them in the same ballpark this year, 9-9, back into the A bracket. The Rosemont Pipers, 14-4 in their first Federal League campaign. This team is the only team not named Minoka to rank top 3 in both hitting and pitching. They were 3rd in hitting almost 400 as a team, 2nd in pitching with a team ERA under 2. MVP candidates and Cliff Christopherson. He was 7-2 over 47 innings pitched, 1.19 ERA. He also had 22 hits at the plate. Logan Pinkney, just a force at the top of that lineup. 30 hits for him last year and a whole handful of stolen bases. Ryan Walker, Scott Man Warren, also capable hitters at the plate. Greg Sell, a lot of great hitters. This is a very deep lineup. I know Ken Fry is really excited about his key ads. Alex Mack and Matt Cheetah are new on that roster. Not sure how or where they're going to contribute, but certainly know that he's expecting some big things out of them. This team's very talented, very deep. I've got them at 15-3 back in the AAA bracket. But they've got some competition in the East. The Apple Valley A's, they are coming off back-to-back 15-3 campaigns. They were the 4th-ranked pitching team in the league last year, and they only get a little bit deeper. Of course, led by Tim Scott, who threw over 35 innings last year with just a 1.00 ERA, 52 strikeouts in those 35 innings. He also hit 370 at the plate. Josh Stoll threw 36 innings as well for the A's while hitting 317 at the plate. They add Tony Schaefer and Brian Heil to that rotation. I think we'll get Jordan Tix back this year as well. So certainly have a ton of pitching that we love. Reggie Stevens, Paul Bissonnette, David Roach, all very good hitters. Of course, Dan Miller, Brian Cogswell. The A's hit just 288 as a team last year. Consistency is certainly going to be something that they are going to need to get better at if they're going to indeed win the National League East. But I think that they will, because I've got them at 15-3, winning the tiebreaker with the Rosemont Pipers. To the National League West, this is a division that's highly contested. Minnetonka Saints, Tonka Bay Lakers, Metro Loons, all receiving votes to win this. We've got the Mustangs in 5th place in this division, coming off a 1-17 campaign. Finished in 27th in both hitting and pitching last year. Haven't seen a ton of ads for this group, so I don't expect this year to be any different than the struggles they encountered last year. They do have veteran Tony Brown, who is well among the all-time wins leaders in the Federal League. But I've got him at 2-16 back in the B bracket. TC Snappers, of course, their offseason was headlined by the key losses as they had a couple of key hitters depart for Lakeville. Those 3 guys combined for over 56 hits in 2023, and it's going to be difficult for this group to replace them. They did finish 9th as a team last year, but with those losses, are they going to be able to replace Rick and Brett and Trevor? They've still got the 3-headed monster when it comes to pitching. Capuan is, he threw 51 innings last year, hit 424. Nate Johnson hit through 28 innings while hitting 455. Dave Killian's just a 5 innings pitched last year. I'm going to guess that he's been dealing with some injuries because he's certainly somebody that they like to rely on a little bit more than that. Oviedo coming off an all-star season, hitting 443. 18-2 in 2022, a big drop off, 11-7 in 2023. Obviously, a reason for that, they're playing in that really deep Western Division. While they're back in the very deep Western Division again, I think there's going to be a lot of infighting here. I've got the Snappers at 6-12 in the B bracket. Certainly a big downgrade for Jeff Wilson and his group, but I wouldn't be surprised if they were even capable of inverting that record and finishing somewhere in the double digits. The Metro Loons, 9-9 in their 21 season. They won 13 games in 2022, just 10 games last year. This is a team that can put it together at times. You know, they're finished sixth in the league in hitting, 11th in the league in pitching, of course, led by Matthew Brecky, who hit 491 last year for them, threw almost 30 innings. Lurch and Ryan Hess, very talented hitters at the plate, great fielders as well. Andy Pass was an all-star last year. He had 385. And then Grant Bartle, somebody that they're talking about, in terms of the MVP voting. He threw 24 innings for them as well, hitting also 345. This team finds a way to shoot themselves in the foot a lot, blowing some big leads, maybe losing some games that they should not have. For that reason, I've got them at 9-9, back in the Double A, where I expect them to really challenge for that championship title. Minnetonka Saints, I know Joe Purcell is fired up over his group. He uh, went to the well with Brandon Casa de Calvo, from the Capital City Cannons a couple years ago. Will they do it again this year? They've got Steve Kleppen, who is being added to the roster. That will certainly help. Uh, some of their team rankings at 18th and 15th last year. 11-7 in that deep Western Division last year. I expect this group to improve on that a little bit. I've got them at 12-6, back in the Double A. Certainly going to be a team that's capable of repeating in that Double A division. That leaves the Tonka Bay Lakers. It's their first year in the league, but being able to, we'll call it add, J.J. Jensen, he's been on that roster forever. Jim Brower, Troy Koenig, all played with the Voyagers last year, but they have decided to play with the Tonka Bay Lakers this year and making them a very deep roster. This is a team that finished second in the MSMABA playoffs last year. They lost in the championship game. They were also the number 2 seed in the regular season. I expect them to certainly be a team that is going to be a force to be reckoned with. I've got them in the AAA at 13-5. That brings us to our last division before we get into some of the postseason brackets and start looking at who we think is going to be the champions. The National League South, certainly some split opinions on who will emerge as the division winner from the preseason poll that Lars conducted. The Lobos getting 30 of those votes. The Newmarket Northerns getting 27 of them. The Lonsdale Jokers coming off their second place finish in the Double A. In fifth place in this division, I've got the Vulcans. Just 3 wins in 21 and 22, just 2 wins last year. This team can hit the ball a little bit. They finished 8th in 2023 with a 341 team batting average, but pitching was just atrocious. Dead last in the league, 30th with a team ERA of 8.22. Certainly some key performers on that team: Rick Majerus, Eric Saplecha. Eric Steinhoff did a bunch of the pitching, over 21 innings pitched for them while hitting 458. Guys like John Vogt, Kyle Green certainly contribute for them as well. Vesely, one of the 2 games that will be going on this weekend that count in the standings. They will open up at Newmarket on 4/21 as well. Some other key games that they have on their schedule, some winnable games for them will be like Webster, Eden Prairie, the Diamonds, the Voyagers. Certainly, if they were able to perform in a couple of those games, they would surpass last year's win total. I've got them at 4-14 this year, doubling last year's win total and solidly in the B. The Elko Chuggers, this is just a really difficult team to place. They have the ability to draw from their town ball team. They've got a really great pipeline of solid players that come through there. Who are they going to get to show up? Obviously, losing Josh Lowen to Burnsville when the Bulldogs entered the league certainly set them back a little bit. 2021, this team was 12-2. 2022, they're 15-3. Last year, just 8-10. They struggled to hit the ball a little bit. 21st in the league at just a 291 clip. In pitching, they were 26th with a team ERA of 5.66. They've got guys like Kyle Kraska and Kyle Kalina who are certainly great players in their regard. Most of the pitching handled by the likes of Andrew Like and Mick Duttero and Craig Osborne, all through between that 22 and 26 inning mark. Certainly have the horses to be able to be competitive in this division. Can they get them to show up? And that will certainly way heavily on how they finish. I've got them at 7-11 this year in the A. This could certainly be one of those teams that completely I'm dead wrong on. The Lonsdale Jokers, a fun run for them last year. Unfortunate way it ended in terms of the rain out and not being able to reschedule it. But I think that motivated them for this year. In terms of coming out and giving them a little bit of taste of a deep run in the postseason. The team finished 12th last year in hitting 327. But pitching was a little bit more of a struggle for them. Mike Madison does most of the throwing for them. He threw over 30 innings for the Jokers. Mike Madison also was 16 of 30 at the plate, so he ended up hitting 533. Brad Albano he hit 481. Mike Alvestad, 447, one of the better shortstops in the league. Brian, I'm just going to say Brian V. Vosepka ended up throwing over 31 innings for the Jokers as well. I've got this group, coming off their 9-9 season last year. I've got them right back at 9-9, but this time it puts them in the A bracket, and they're going to be an absolute juggernaut in that A break. The Newmarket Northerns, double-digit wins in each of the last 3 seasons: 10-4 in 21, 10-8 in 2022, 15-3 last year. A big offseason in terms of some change, for this group. Matt Gormar is going to step in for Nick Novak at the managerial spot. They do lose Nate Otto to Hastings. This team, really good. They're hitting their 11th in the league last year at 334. Pitching, they were 9th at a 2.75 ERA. Ryan Heaslip, just really great pitcher, really great hitter as well. Matt Gormar, just wily veteran, such great ability to change speeds and get out. Pete Fuller threw really well for them too. They've got other pieces as well, like Matt Paulson, Andy Finstuen, Brandon Miller. Really, really strong team. I don't see them reaching that 15-3 mark that they did last year. It just feels like there's something a little bit amiss with the Northerns right now. I think they'll be good again, but I've got them at 11-7, which is a stark drop off from last year. But I've got them in the Double A, where I think that they will definitely be a team to be reckoned with. That brings us to the Lakeville Lobos. 14th in hitting last year, hit 319. Pitching, they were 7th with a team ERA of 2.79. 16-2 in both the 21 and 22 seasons. In 2023, they're 14-4. A little bit of a drop off for them there. Key performers on this roster, they are certainly star-studded. Matt Meyer, Don Erdahl. How much did they get him there? How much did they get him to commit? Jamie Steinberg, Nick Rathman. Torrey Holt obviously doing his thing, contributing both as a player and a manager. Mike Orth, Ryan Ludwig. Joe Witt had a little bit of an off year last year, but I don't think there's any cause for alarm. I don't think he's slowing down at all. I expect him to rebound definitely. Some roster changes for the Lobos. They did lose Tony Schaefer to Apple Valley, but they've added a bunch to help replace him and give that lineup a little bit of a boost. Rick, Brett, and Trevor. We talked to one earlier after departing from the TC Snappers. Going to give that lineup a lot of depth. I think this group is very motivated. I think they're doubling down on some of their commitment. I think as Matt Meyer and Don Erdahl wind down their town ball careers, I think they're just going to start showing up for the Lobos a little bit more, including the postseason. I think all of that combined is going to see this team resurge a little bit. I've got them at 16-2 and solidly within the AAA. We've covered the 35 teams. We've given you win-loss records. Let's go ahead and look into the brackets and just kind of do a summary in terms of who's going to be there and who I expect to emerge out of it. The one thing looking at this B bracket, there's a couple of teams I think I could just be completely off, like miss by entirely 2 classes. There could be teams in the Double A, that I've got listed here in this B list. Teams like the TC Snappers, somebody like the Flyers, could definitely just make me look foolish. The RC Rockets, I think have potential to be a team that is playing at least in the A bracket. But of all these teams, I really like the TC Snappers to come out of this and win a B division championship. They've got the pitching to do it. They've certainly had a lot of postseason success, won a lot of games in recent history. I think it's going to kind of be a feel-good moment for them to grab a championship after losing some key members of that roster. Moving on to the A, some really good teams in this bracket. Teams who have played at the AA record, had success at the AA record, or level. So we're talking about Lonsdale, the Jokers. We're talking about Capital City. We're talking about the Voyagers, who won the A last year. Elko, they've been among the elite teams, in this league many times. So this is certainly a stacked A bracket, and that's the one thing I'm kind of realizing is this league is getting so much better top to bottom that there's going to be good teams that end up falling down into this A, being victims of tough schedules and maybe some losing some close games. Of this, I like the feel good story of the Hastings Hurricanes to come out of the A bracket and celebrate a championship in their inaugural season. The AA bracket. Teams like St. Michael Angels and Minnetonka Saints, River Falls Groupers, a lot of good pitching in this one. The Newmarket Northerns, of course, obviously going to be a team to be reckoned with. If this is the way that the AA bracket shook up, I've got the Newmarket Northerns winning the AA here. I think Heaslip and Gurmar are just too good in a format that allows you to really use two pitchers to get through the bulk of a bracket. So I do like the Newmarket Northerns to come out victorious in the AA bracket. Comes to the AAA. I will tell you that I've got time-stamped text messages into Lars that I have accurately picked the AAA champion in each of the last two seasons. I, of course, picked East Metro 2 years ago. I picked the Minoka Grays last year. I, of course, always pick the Apple Valley A's with my heart. Certainly some bias there. So I will once again say the Apple Valley A's are going to win the AAA with my heart. With my brain and my official pick, I'm going to tell you that the Lakeville Lobos, they're going to get more out of Meyer. They're going to get more out of Erdahl. I think Torrey Holt has that team just fortified, in terms of not only the players that are on the roster, but their commitment level. I think that this team is going to once again be AAA champions. So that concludes our preview episode. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope that you write down some of your own predictions because it is not easy. And certainly look forward to the end of the season, revisiting some of those predictions and just seeing how off I. Next week, we've got Dr. Ryan Hess on the podcast. He's going to be talking a little bit about arm care in the early season. So you want to make sure to tune in for that. And then I've got a fun segment with Penguin Killbear. If you know who that is, you're not going to want to miss it. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week.